Welcome back, my most amazing artists. Today we are going to learn a little bit about how to mix our skin tones. Our learning target for today says I can apply knowledge of skin tone mixing to investigate personal ideas in my artwork. We will learn a little bit about how to mix skin tones, and we're going to use that skin tone in a very personal self-portrait inspired by the artist Kehinde Wiley. Before we learn a little bit more about how to mix our skin tones, let's learn a little bit about why we have the skin color that we do. When we look at these two charts in front of us, we might notice some similarities. What do you see? If we compare different areas on these maps of the world, you can see in places where there are lighter skin tones, it seems that there is less sunlight in those areas throughout the year. Whereas areas that get a lot of sunlight, if we look back at people's skin tones, we notice they are a lot darker. This is due to the amount of melanin in our skin tone, and that is because we get a lot more UV rays when we are in this area of the world. So people who have history in their family of originating in these areas have either lighter or darker skin tones depending on how much sunlight they received. Pretty interesting. Now that we know a little bit more about why we are the color we are, just know we are all a different shade of brown. No one is truly black or white. We are all shades of brown, and each brown is beautiful. It can be made using 4 colors. We can create brown by mixing red, black, yellow, and white. When we add white, we create a tint. We can make it a little bit lighter. If we add black, we can make it a tone. All different shades of brown. So now that we know a little bit more about how to mix these colors, we can now apply that knowledge. Remember, our learning target for today says we can apply the knowledge of mixing these skin tones. If we do that, we can use these 4 colors and we can create a skin tone pretty close to our own. Let's give it a try. If you were to receive one of these packets that you picked up from school and you have your art kit in front of you will find inside that you have a thick, sturdy piece of paper for your skin tone sheets and some additional copy paper if you need to draw or make any other part of this lesson and you don't have any blank sheets of paper. You'll also find a paintbrush and some tempera paint. Let's talk about this dried out tempera paint. You may even notice that your paint has chipped and broken, but do not panic because all we have to do is add a little bit of water to this and it will turn right back into all the paint that you need. You can even set the paint right on top of the surface of your plastic bag and just add a couple drips of water to reactivate it, just like you would with pan watercolors in our classroom. So see what you can do with these colors of paint and have fun investigating your own skin tone.
Okay, so now that we've learned a little bit about how to mix colors, let's see if we can use the colors yellow, red, black, and white to mix our skin tone. Over here, I have a little test strip of paper. This is not going to be my final work of art. This is just where I'm going to test colors if I need to see what they look like before I put them on my large sheet of paper. So I always want to start with my lightest color first when I'm mixing with paint. And this is because dark colors are very intense and they can overwhelm the other colors very quickly. But if I start with my lightest colors first, I should be okay. So I'm going to start by I'm going to lift up some of this white. I know I'm going to need a lot of white because my skin is very light. So if you don't think that your skin is very light, you might not need to add as much as I'm adding here. But I'm going to add a generous amount of white over here to this side. And I'm just mixing on a plate here, and I'm using tempera paint. You could use acrylic paint. You could also even use watercolors. In this case, instead of using white, you would just add more water. Right? So over here I have a mixing cup and I have a paper towel for when I need to rinse my brush, because I will need to rinse this off in order to dip into this paint so that I'm not contaminating that paint. So I'm pulling all this white into the center, okay? And then I'm going to wipe that off of my brush as much as possible, rinse my brush, and then my next lightest color after, say, white would probably be yellow. Okay, so I start with my white and then I'm going to add in some yellow. Now you don't need a ton of paint. I want you to add it in there, mix it up, and then see if you need more. Okay, to me that's already a good amount of yellow. It might even be more than I need. I might end up adding more white. You can see how very quickly that white changed colors, even though I added a very light color to it. Okay, so I added in my yellow. Now I'm going to rinse my brush again. And I think I might even go ahead and add more white because I know I'm going to need it. I'm going to add that in over here, and I'm going to rinse my brush one more time because I know I'm going to come back and add some red. So I go white, yellow, red, and then black. And look at this. I'm going to use just the very tip of my paintbrush and dip it in. I don't need very much at all. As a matter of fact, I might even get rid of just a little bit of it because my skin, I do have a lot of pink in my skin tone, but this red is quickly going to change this color. So I don't want to add too much. Okay? Already, I think that's looking really, really good. Let's go ahead and test this color before we add any black to it. And then we can see if we think we should add anything or what we need to do next. So I'm going to test that color over here, and I'm looking at my skin tone next to it. Okay, I think maybe I might need just a little bit more red. I think maybe for me it's a little bit too yellow, and I think I still need more white. So again, when you're dipping into that color, you don't need very much of these three colors right here, especially if you're light skinned. But even if you have darker skin, you probably are still going to need a generous amount of white from the mix over here. And I'm not going to mix into the whole thing. I'm just going to keep that over here. And I do think I want just a little bit more red. So I'm going to scoop at the red that I put here before. Look how little there is on my brush. Okay, not very much at all. And I'm going to mix that in. Now we have a slightly different skin tone. Okay, I actually think that that's much, much closer to mine. So I might go with that color right there. Now, if you wanted to, you could continue to mix. Let's say I want to add a little bit of black to this. I'm going to touch that over here, and I'm going to try mixing that in. Maybe you have some more red skin, so let's see if we can make a different skin tone here. Let me try a little bit more red and a little bit of yellow. I'm going quickly here, so I'm not rinsing my brush, but you definitely should. Don't contaminate your paint. Now you can see I'm starting to get some darker tones. Look at that skin tone. Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, what happens if I add a little bit more yellow? Maybe you are closer to this skin tone. Maybe add a little bit more red, a little bit more black. Remember, black very quickly overwhelms, so don't go too crazy with it. Maybe this is closer to your skin tone. Or maybe you're even darker. Okay, and maybe if you add white to this, let's see what we get. Beautiful, that's like a cocoa. Okay, so here I have a variety of skin tones. I could continue to mix and make more, but I think once you've found the one that matches closest to your skin, so you're always looking back and forth between your arm and maybe the back of your hand, and look at this color right here. Once you find the color that matches your skin tone, you are going to completely cover your paper with that skin tone. So this, remember, this is just my tester strip. I'm going to scoot that out of the way here. And I'm going to paint this page completely. I'm going to add just a little tiny bit of black into my skin tone just because I think we could use it. And I think I need just a hint more red overall. And then this is the skin tone I think I'm going to work with. So I'm going to paint the entire page this color. Nice even brush strokes. You don't have to go as fast as I am. You want to fill up the page. So I'm starting here in the middle, and then I'm going to work my way around the outside, getting pretty close to the edge. You don't have to get it right on that edge. You don't have to get paint on your table. Remember, when you're painting, you definitely want to work with something underneath you. If you've not just really mastered the skill of painting yet, you want to work with maybe some newspaper. Accidents always happen, okay? Make sure you have paper towels on hand and fill up that space. This is what we're going to use for our portrait. This is the skin tone that we're creating for our Kehinde Wiley portrait, okay? Paint in that whole page. So I hope you have fun mixing your own skin tone, and I hope that you find this successful. Experiment until you get it right. Remember, start with your lightest colors first. And as always, happy painting. I will see you on our next step of the project.